Saturday morning. I had just poured my first cup of coffee and was watching steam curl into the gray Oregon sky when my phone buzzed. Trevor West, my realtor from years ago, the man who helped me find the one place that was mine. "Hey, Delaney," he said, voice cautious. "Quick question, are you selling your cabin?" My hand froze on the mug. "No." "Why?" "There's a listing up. Your mountain property near Bend. Same photos, same lot size. It's live right now, but the contact number isn't yours." A sharp, cold sensation slid down my spine. "Whose number is it?" He hesitated. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure, but I reverse searched it. It's a woman named Marla Carver, my mother. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. The silence was so dense I could hear the tick of the clock above the stove. "I'll send you the link," Trevor added gently. "Thought I'd check with you first before taking any steps." After we hung up, I opened the message. There it was. My cabin, my name not listed, but every other detail was exact. Photos I'd never taken. A description worded just close enough to sound legitimate. Peaceful alpine getaway. It read, "Available for private viewing." There was Mom's number at the bottom, bold and public, like she had every right. I didn't even feel anger yet, just a hollow, rising pressure in my chest, like the ground beneath something sacred had started to crack. I set the phone down, walked to the sink, and stood staring through the window, knuckles white on the edge of the counter. My mother was trying to sell my home. I picked up the phone again and called her. The phone rang twice before she picked up. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom said, her voice laced with that artificial warmth she saved for when she knew she was in trouble. "How's your weekend going? Why is my cabin listed online?" I asked, skipping any pretense. A pause. Then, in that same tone, "Oh, you saw that. You put my property up for sale." "Well," she said, drawing the word out like it needed softening. "Your father and I just thought it would be best." "You're so busy." "Delaney, you never even use it anymore. That's not your decision to make." Another pause. I could hear her settle into her kitchen chair. "It's for Sierra. She's expecting. And she and Caleb need a place. They've outgrown that little apartment already. You know how expensive things are now." My jaw locked. "You didn't ask me, because you would have said no," she said plainly. "We're not trying to hurt you. It's family. She needs help." "You always help." I closed my eyes. "It's not yours to sell." "We're not doing anything illegal," she said quickly. "We have copies of your ID, your tax forms, old documents with your signature. We can manage the paperwork if that's what you're worried about." I stared at the wall across from me like it might split open. "You mean you're going to forge my name?" "It's just easier this way," she said, gently, as if explaining something logical to a child. "And we know you'll understand. Once you calm down, you've always been the responsible one." She said it like it was a compliment, before I could respond. I heard Dad's voice in the background. "Is she upset Mom covered the phone?" "It's fine. I'm handling it." I ended the call. Then I opened my laptop and searched for Trevor's number again. I didn't call Trevor right away. Instead, I sat there with my laptop open, the cursor blinking on an empty email draft. My hands hovered over the keys, but I couldn't type yet, not through the wave of memories that hit me all at once. It wasn't just the cabin. It was the way they always framed it. "You're so responsible." The words they used to convince me to pay Sierra's last 2 semesters of college when her scholarship fell through. The same words they used when her wedding budget spiraled out of control and I wrote a check to cover the difference because she deserved a perfect day. The first time I agreed to help with the mortgage was when Dad got laid off. I told myself it was temporary. They promised they'd pay me back. That was nearly 3 years ago. $800 a month, automatically withdrawn, quietly taken. No one ever brought it up, not even me, because that's what I was trained to be: quiet, reliable, the one who fixes things without being asked, the daughter who gives. not the one who questions why no one ever gives back. I used to think it was love. That doing more meant I was a good person. That being the stable one was a kind of honor. But sitting there, realizing they were planning to forge my signature and sell the only thing I owned outright, I saw it clearly for the first time. This wasn't love. It was control, just softened by years of obligation and polite smiles. I opened my banking app, canceled the auto payment. Then I picked up my phone, took a breath, and called Trevor. Trevor picked up on the second ring. "Delaney," he said, voice steady but curious. "Everything okay, No?" I said. "But I need your help. I want to sell the cabin." A pause. "You sure I'm sure?" "Fast. If possible." "How soon could we close if everything lined up?" "Well, if the buyer has cash and financing in place. Maybe 10 days? Why do you remember that sheriff you mentioned? Is he still interested?" "Yeah, Colton Reese. Been looking for something like your place for months. Lives down in Sisters. Quiet guy, solid income, pre-approved. Why, I'll knock $10,000 off the asking price and add a bonus to your commission if we can close before next Friday." Trevor whistled. "You're serious. Dead serious." "Okay, I'll make the call." After we hung up, I opened my laptop again. I wasn't done. I logged into the joint access account one I'd opened with my parents years ago when Dad had surgery and needed help managing bills. It was still linked to my name, still gave them quiet access to my finances. I revoked it. Then I went through all my accounts, one by one, checking for anything they might still have eyes on: insurance, shared statements, tax documents they used to handle for me, every door they had ever opened under the guise of helping. I shut by the time I finished. It was past midnight, but I didn't feel tired. There was something cold and focused inside me now, like a thread pulled taut. They'd moved in secret, quietly laying plans and justifying them as helping the family. They thought I'd roll over, like always. Instead, I moved faster. When Trevor called me back the next morning, his voice had a new energy. "He's in," he said. "Full price minus your discount. Wants to close as soon as inspections clear." "Do it," I said. "Send me what you need." The next few days blurred into documents, signatures, phone calls. I didn't tell anyone, not friends, not co-workers, not even my aunt, who would have understood. I wasn't looking for advice. I was reclaiming something, quietly, legally, and without permission. By Thursday afternoon, the deed was filed, the funds cleared, and the cabin no longer belonged to me. But it sure as hell didn't belong to them either. 2 weeks passed with nothing but silence. No calls, no voicemails, not even one of Mom's subtle guilt texts. For a while, I let myself believe maybe they'd moved on. Maybe they found another way to get Sierra her dream apartment. Maybe they'd realized what they were doing and quietly let go. Then, on a Tuesday morning, my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it buzz twice before answering. "Hello?" Her voice was sharp, panicked, and louder than usual. "Delaney, what's going on?" We went up to the cabin with a couple who wanted to see the place. And the locks. Someone changed the locks. None of our keys work. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear, even though I already knew what I was going to say. "I know." I said. "You changed them. Why, we have people ready to buy it." "It's not my house anymore," I said. There was silence. And then she laughed, but it was that brittle kind of laugh. More nerves than humor. Very funny. "But seriously, the buyers are getting annoyed and your father's furious. This is making everything more complicated than it needs to be." "I'm not joking," I said calmly. "I sold the house. Last week, the new owners installed those locks." The silence stretched longer this time. I could picture her face, her mouth opening and closing, trying to process the fact that I had moved faster than she expected. "Finally," she said, "you..." "What?" "You heard me." "Without even telling us." Her voice cracked. "Delaney, how could you do something so spiteful? I didn't do it out of spite." I said, I did it because it was mine, and I was done pretending I owed it to you. She started saying something else, but I didn't wait to hear it. I hit end and set the phone on the counter. My hands trembled for a few seconds, my body catching up to the adrenaline that had held me still through the call. But then a strange, unexpected calm settled in. For the first time in years, I'd said no and meant it. They couldn't guilt me into reversing anything. The deed was final. The money was already working to clean up my own debt. I had acted without asking for permission, and there was no apology coming. I stood in the kitchen a while longer, the quiet wrapping around me like armor. Then the phone lit up again. This time, it was Sierra. I let Sierra's call go to voicemail the first time, and the second, but she didn't stop, by the fourth attempt. I picked up mostly out of curiosity. Delaney. "What the hell is going on?" she snapped. No greeting, no pause. Mom just called me crying about locks and buyers walking away. "What did you do? I sold the house," I said evenly. There was a beat of silence, and then, "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. The house is no longer mine. You didn't even tell anyone." Her voice was rising now. "We've been planning this for months. I already picked out an apartment. I hired a designer to help with the nursery theme. We told people we were moving into a new place. Then you shouldn't have based your future on something that didn't belong to you." Her breath caught. "You don't understand. I'm pregnant." "Yes. Sierra. I know. And that doesn't make it my responsibility." There was another pause. Then her voice softened, slipping into the tone she used when she wanted something. "We just needed a little help. Del, you've always been the one who holds things together. Mom said you'd come around." I let out a quiet breath. "Figure it out, like the rest of us do." Her tone snapped back into its usual pitch. "You're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm finally being clear." There was silence, long and heavy. Then she muttered something under her breath and hung up. I stood there with the phone still in my hand, not shaking this time, not even angry, just tired of being the solution to everyone's problems. They had built their entire plan around my compliance. They assumed I'd fold, because I always had. But they never asked what would happen if I didn't. The silence after her call didn't feel like guilt. It felt like a door closing, not slammed, just shut. 2 more days passed without a word. Then Trevor called again this time. Not about documents or inspections. "Delaney," he said, "you're not going to believe what happened." "Delaney," Trevor said carefully. "The sheriff, your buyer, just called me. There was a break-in at the cabin over the weekend." My stomach twisted. Is he all right? He wasn't there. But the alarm went off. Caught everything on the cameras. The guy tried to force the back door open with a crowbar, then circled around trying the windows. I already knew before he said it. "It was your father." I closed my eyes. "He's been arrested." The sheriff recognized him from the paperwork and called the local PD instead of handling it himself. Said he wanted to keep things above board. "Of course," I murmured. "Thank you for telling me." "I'm sorry," Trevor added. I wish I could say I was surprised. We hung up, and I sat in silence until my phone rang again. This time, it was my mother, Delaney. She cried before I could say a word. "You have to fix this. Your father was just trying to get into your property. He didn't know it was sold for real. Call the sheriff. Tell him it's a misunderstanding." "It's not a misunderstanding," I said. "He thought you were bluffing," she said desperately. "We didn't think you'd actually go through with it. You had the ad online. You were arranging showings. You were going to forge my signature. And now you're shocked that I didn't let you get away with it. Don't be cruel. He's your father." "No," I said. "He's a man who broke into someone else's home. On purpose. After being told it wasn't his. He could go to jail. He made that choice." "You're heartless," she whispered. "No. I'm just done." I hung up and turned off my phone. There was nothing left to explain. They hadn't misunderstood anything. They knew exactly what they were doing. They just never imagined I'd finally say no. And this time, no one was going to talk me out of it. It didn't take long for the news to spread. Small town, small circles. The sheriff didn't press charges for trespassing, but my dad didn't walk away untouched. The incident went into an official report. Within a week, his employer, mall security, found out. They let him go quietly. No confrontation, just a termination letter and a severance check too small to matter. Mom stopped calling after that. For a few weeks. Everything went silent again. Then Aunt Cora reached out. She didn't lecture. She never did. She just gave me the facts they've burned through most of their savings, legal fees, paying people back, and Sierra and Caleb moved in with them. I almost laughed when I heard that part. The dream apartment dissolved, and now the golden child was back in her childhood bedroom, pregnant, married, and sandwiched between two people who were unraveling. "They're not doing well," Cora said gently. "Your mom's been working more hours at the grocery store. Sierra's complaining a lot, and your dad, well, he's not handling the downtime." I thanked her for letting me know, but I didn't ask for updates. They had always talked about family like it meant obligation, like helping them was proof of love. But now that I wasn't the one holding it all together, everything was crumbling, and I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. For years, I thought my role in the family was essential, that if I stepped away, they'd collapse. Turns out, I was right. But instead of feeling needed, I just felt free. I made dinner that night alone, with music on low and my phone turned off. I didn't feel like rescuing anyone. I didn't feel like apologizing. The next morning, I woke up without dread, and I made my first therapy appointment. The first session was hard. I sat on the couch, unsure where to start, staring at a framed photo of a tree above the bookshelf like it might offer me the words I couldn't find. Dr. Leone didn't rush me. She waited. I told her everything haltingly at first, then all at once. The cabin, the forged sale, the wedding money, the monthly payments, the silence I always kept because making noise felt like betrayal. She listened without blinking. When I finally stopped talking, she said, "You weren't their daughter. Delaney. You were their emergency fund." I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Instead, something inside me just clicked, like a key turning in the right lock after years of jamming the wrong one. We talked about boundaries, patterns. The long, quiet grooming that teaches you love and debt are the same thing. She gave it a name: financial abuse, and it fit. I went home afterward and sat in my living room for a long time. No TV, no music, just the steady hum of the refrigerator and the traffic outside my window. I looked at the space around me, not big, not fancy, but mine, and I let the stillness sink in. That night, I slept through without waking. No texts buzzing at midnight, no bank alerts, no weight in my chest reminding me that someone, somewhere, was disappointed I hadn't fixed something for them. For the first time in years, I wasn't the backup plan. I wasn't the one carrying anyone else's weight, and I started to wonder what it might look like to carry only my own. 7 months later, I walked through a quiet neighborhood just outside the city, hands in my coat pockets, eyes scanning the yard in front of me. The house was small, modest, really, but it had a garden. Not much more than a patch of dirt now, but I could already picture the lavender and basil growing there. Maybe even tomatoes. If I got brave. The realtor unlocked the door and let me step in first. The floors creaked. The kitchen smelled like lemon polish. No granite countertops. No vaulted ceilings. Just a clean slate. A space that hadn't been soaked in someone else's expectations. I didn't have to call anyone to ask what they thought. 2 weeks later, the papers were signed. The house was mine. I bought a used Toyota after that, something reliable. Nothing flashy. The old car had finally died, and for once, replacing it didn't mean cutting into groceries or skipping rent. I paid in full, no loan, no cosigner, no family involved. every month now. I set aside money, not for emergencies caused by someone else, but for things I actually wanted: a weekend trip to the coast, a class on herb gardening, maybe a new mattress. My bank account wasn't just a revolving door for other people's needs anymore. It was mine. The silence in my life used to feel heavy. Now it feels like air. No crisis calls, no guilt texts, no obligation tangled in every holiday. I wake up, I work, I cook dinner in my quiet kitchen, I go to therapy, I make plans, small ones, mine. No one tells me who I need to be, and I finally understand freedom isn't loud. It's the soft, steady hum of a life that belongs to no one but you.